Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Matters of the Heart and Soul podcast. This is Janie, Charlot, your host, and co-hosting with Russell Bruce.
Hello, everybody out there.
So it has been a while since you've had both of us here together, but we wanted to deliver a podcast today about left brain and right brain harmonizing for complete balance and wholeness. Okay, so the whole brain coming together for that. So you have us today in this Georgia humidity outside in nature. So we're going to deliver this podcast very quick, very fast, and let's get started, Russell.
All right. So, like she said, we live in a society that is more of a, say, patrilineal society where it's male dominated. And we know from studying the brain that men tend to be more left brain and women tend to be more right brain. All right. And what does that mean? Left-brained people tend to be more logical, more mathematical, things of that nature, less emotional. Where on the other side, the right brain is more intuitive, more emotional. And there's a lot more that goes to that. As we go along, we'll try to break down these different parts of the brain and also how it plays out depending upon what hand you are.
Yep. So just a little background information. Let's talk about the brain, okay? The brain is actually our biggest processing system in the body. It processes everything. It controls memory, it controls temperature, it controls breathing. It controls movement, everything, memory, all of that. So if you think about it, it is literally the computer of the human body, okay? So, and it is broken down into different parts. I won't get, technical with all that. We really just want to stick with the big two hemispheres, okay? So let's talk a little bit about why we need to merge into whole brain using both sides of your brain.
All right. So when a person is going through, say, some type of mental breakdown or what have you, and if they go speak with a counselor, a lot of times they're going to look at, whether they're male, female, what type of issues they're having. And with men, in the type of society that we live in, where they say men shouldn't cry or be emotional, but yet, we take upon a lot of baggage, within a family or within a society. And, men tend to, like they say, cry in the dark, so to speak. So, and it's really that they feel that they can't tap into their emotional side, even though they know it's there. The societal norm tells them that they shouldn't tap into it. So in order for them to heal, they're going to have to tap more into the right hemisphere of their brain, which is more of the emotional side, more of the intuitive side, to kind of counterbalance what they're feeling. So, and that's just one example. But a lot of times, in order what they call hemi-sync, to get both hemispheres of the brain to unite, when you're using both of them, you're usually, you're maxing out at that point, because now you're very intuitive, you're very mathematical, you're very creative, you're very in touch with your emotions. Not so much being emotional, but being able to master your emotions.
Expressing your emotions and all of that. So why is that important? That is important because if you've listened to any of our podcasts, you know that we are moving into more of a, I want to say, not necessarily the rise of the feminine, but in alignment with the feminine along with the masculine. We talked about just cycles of time, that there are cycles. Sometimes society is ran during a patriarchal society, sometimes it's matriarchal. And as you could see, we've been, the last several years has been very much patriarchal. All right, and what are some ways we see that in society as a patriarchal society?
Right, and just for the record, just in case people aren't following what we're saying, patriarchal means more of a masculine dominated society as far as rulership, ideologies, and then matriarchal is mother or female, where, you know, females play a larger role within society. So if you look at like the ancient Egyptian society, the women had high roles. Some of them became pharaohs and queens, and also the pharaoh didn't take stance until the queen mother actually inducted him into that position. So she was the one that allowed it, because she was the one that had all the intuition and the creativity, so to speak. Like, for example, I'll give you an example. Like, in the world today, if you look at societies that are very male dominated, like let's think of some of the Middle Eastern nations that are Islamic, where they dominate the women. Not all Islam, because in Western Africa it's not that way. But if you look at some of the Middle Eastern Islamic states where the women are covered head to toe, they really have no rights and so forth. Those societies that are male dominated like that, if you look at the countries, they tend to look like a bachelor pad. They don't have like the creative like essence to it. Like, you don't see all the flowers and the beauty like outside of buildings, etc. That's a feminine touch. So it's like, you know, and women bring more to the table than that, but that's just like one point that
even the aspect of war, that's very masculine, that's very patriarchal. The war, wanting to fight and wanting to you know, just in a scarcity mindset, because if we don't fight over this land, or if we don't fight over these resources, then we won't have. And then the right brain, or the feminine side of that, is abundance and collaboration. So it's not competition, but it's collaboration. So yeah.
Right. You know, and then sometimes war is necessary, but you know, a good ruler, a wise ruler, that is not always the first thing on his mind, to go out to seek, kill, and destroy. It's really trying to find a way to live in peace and harmony, in balance.
See, and I think that's a good example, because I think in ancient Egypt times, men and women were both on the throne. There was God and goddesses together that decided on those such things, because if it was mostly just a masculine decision, it would probably be more blood and guts and, you know, death and stuff like that. Yeah. But the feminine side brings in intuition. Let's wait. Let's see. Let's have another move. Let's be strategic about this. Let's do this in another way and still win.
Right. And also, like, you know, like, without going deep into history, but the further you go back, they didn't even have an army in ancient Egypt in those early dynastic periods, because there was no one coming to conquer them. That's why they were able to accomplish some of the amazing things they did, because it was a time of great peace and high morality and spirituality, that they were able to do some of the things they did. They were able to actually tap into both hemispheres of the brain. And once again, by men being predominantly left-brained individuals, you know, if they're able to tap into their right brain, which brings about more creativity, more intuition, things of that nature, now they become a double threat, because they're very logical, they're very mathematical, and they're cunning, they're builders of civilization. And then on the other side, they can tap into some of the things that females are very gifted at. And you don't see many men like that. So it's a gift for men. So when you look at men, say like Martin Luther King and Nelson Mandela, Malcolm X, you know, or even say somebody like Obama, you know, these guys were able to use both hemispheres of their brain, because you have to have compassion for people, which is a right brain or a feminine quality. And not feminine as in, say, a gay quality, so to speak, but feminine as a feminine brain or thought process, which is a right
an
brain
energy,
thought process.
Yeah. So let's talk about why this is important now in relationships and relationship building. So perhaps you are more left brain and you are all about the routines. You're all about, this is what works for me. I don't want to try anything new. You're all about being logical. You're all about, this is it. I don't want to learn anything new. Everything's very linear. A plus B equals C. There's no way that anything else could really come if it's not A plus B equals C. And you may be dealing with someone who's very right brain, who's very creative, can see things beyond what's in front of them. And you may clash, because that's normally what happens in relationships as well. That's, out in nature, everything has a masculine and a feminine aspect. So we're talking about humanity, and because we have brains, we have consciousness, we want to talk about the left and the right hemisphere, but it's all the same. It is a masculine and a feminine aspect. So it's important to be able to tap into both sides. And even if you're not good at tapping into your right side, that was the fly, sorry. Even if you're not good
I'll protect you.
Thank you. Even if you are not good at, tapping into that right brain, which is expressing emotions, being expressive, being open, being vulnerable, in your heart space, because that's also the right brain, you can understand someone that is operating that way. And that's what we're all here to do, is to come into balance, to come into understanding, to understand individuals and people that are not like us, right? Because that's how we can move forward in the world and move forward with the things that we want to achieve as well. So it's important for relationships.
Most definitely. And for the men out there, if you look at the men who have this ability to, by nature, they're left-brained thinkers, right? But those who are able to tap into the right side, you look at the musicians and the artists, people who are very creative are able to tap into that right brain, right? So, and one of the things I found out, I'm left-handed, and I used to do some studies trying to figure out, okay, what constitutes being left-handed, right? Because less than about 8 to 10% of the people on the planet are left-handed, so it's somewhat rare. And it actually starts in the brain, so it has something to do with brain development when the child's in the uterus, in the womb. So people who are left-handed are controlled by the right brain. So men who are left-handed tend to be able to navigate between both the left and right brain, and they're able to do it more rapidly. So if you look at a lot of musicians like Kenny Hendricks, and you look at artists like Leonardo da Vinci, people like that, and like Oprah Winfrey, Bill Gates, and even people who've done some atrocious things in the world, people like Hitler were left-handed, right? And
I think people who were like Hitler, because you can tap into those emotions, you could use it as manipulation.
Right, because they're super creative. Mm-hmm. They say that a lot of the serial killers were left-handed people because they're super creative, and they were able to use both hemispheres of their brain. So if they're evil, you better watch out.
Yeah. So that is pretty much all we have. We really just wanted to kind of get this podcast out, give a little something on left brain versus right brain. This is really just tapping the surface. It goes really, really deep. The brain is amazing. It is literally the pathway to higher consciousness, because the more the pathways that you can activate, the more neurons that you can activate, the higher consciousness, just so much you could tap into. We call it quantum field, metaphysics, all of that stuff. But your brain is the processing center of your whole body, all right? So it sends signals out. But more than that, we really wanted to bring this to awareness so that everyone can can move in their whole brain, in both the right and the left, because that's where genius status is.
Yeah, you know, and also it gives you chance to delve deeper into something that you may not have even paid attention to. You know, we don't always have to go to a counselor or somebody to hear some of these things. Some of these things we could find on our own to assist. Not saying not to go if you need help, but a lot of times in our everyday life, a lot of these little things can assist in helping us understand ourselves and other people at a deeper level.
Yep. And the only other thing I want to add to in this is that there's a difference between the brain and the mind. All right. The brain is physical. You could see that, you could touch that, you know, it weighs about 3 pounds. It has a lot of compartments. The mind we cannot see, but the mind is very important because that is the non-physical thought processing that a lot of people attach to the brain. All right. So I've been reading a book. I forgot the name of it, but it basically talks about how spirituality is everything that science cannot prove, and science is just proven spirituality. So we always talk about science, but know that spirituality is just
sacred science.
Sacred science. You know, it's
really
something that science has not proven yet. So just keep that in mind.
Right. And just to add to what she said is that the brain rules the body or governs the body, and the mind governs the soul.
Yeah. Yeah. All right, guys, that is it. This has been another episode of Matters of the Heart and Soul podcast. We appreciate you guys so much. Make sure you like, subscribe, and share. We are in season 3. We have over 70 plus episodes. So start wherever you want to. If there's a topic that resonates with you, go ahead and, you know, listen to it, give us feedback. Follow us on Instagram, Matters of the Heart and Soul. Also, Russell, Bruce, and Janie, Charlot. You can find us by our name as well on Instagram. We're also on YouTube as well. You could put in Matters of the Heart and Soul podcast. You'll find all of our videos for our podcast, and also on all podcasting platforms. Okay, so if you listen to Google Podcasting, Apple Podcasts, Anchor, all of them. We're being heard in many countries right now, and so that's amazing because, you know, this is how we make shifts in humanity.
That's good stuff.
Yep. All right, guys, take care.
All right, peace.